It's February 13th, 2020, and you're listening to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable.
Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted. Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again.
Hello, and welcome to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn. Serge, your fades crack me up, man. They're so on point, but they're really things of beauty. But anyway, well done, Serge. Thanks everyone out there for tuning in again to WLPN LP 105.5 FM, as I just said before the music. And thanks to Lumpen Radio for having us on yet again. We're coming here, as always, from Studio B at the Co-Prosperity Sphere. And again, thanks to the leaders, the fearless leaders, some say, of Lumpen Radio, Misters Logan Bay and Jamie Trecker. Thanks, guys. Thanks to producer Serge, not only for the beautiful fade-in, but I'm already going to pre-thank him for the beautiful fade-in after the break, as he always does. And just for being here and just being good. I don't know, something about going to California changed you. You're a changed man, Serge. And thank you guys for tuning in to the radio. If you're actually tuning into a radio, I applaud you. If you're here in the Chicagoland area, if you're listening via internet radio, thanks as well. You can listen at WLPN. lumpenradio.com. They have an app. You can do it on TuneIn Radio, all that stuff. So thanks for tuning in. Most of you are listening via podcast, and thanks to you as well. If you enjoy the show, reviews are always very much appreciated. So get on there and leave a review. If you want to go a step further and write us a letter, you can do that. That's insiders@craftbeertemple.com, or you can send a letter. We used to have them sent here, the Co-Prosperity Sphere, but too many of them were lost. According to who you ask, it was always somebody else, but they ended up not finding their way into my hands very often, so now we're having them sent to the Beer Temple. It's 3173 North Elston Avenue in Chicago, 60618. I'll remind you again when we read some letters. Recently, we've been sending out T-shirts to people who send us letters. So it's gotten to that point, Serge. We have to bribe people, and it seems to work. I don't mention it very often. I've only mentioned it, I think, a couple times on the air. Every damn letter has a T-shirt size on there that they want. So just throw your T-shirt size in, and if it's an especially good letter, we'll send something your way. In fact, Alex, last week, you had an amazing letter. So reach out, send an email with your shirt size, because we're going to send you something as well. So just to say thanks. Anyway, if you're tuning in for the first time, you're probably a little confused. That's fine. That'll probably stay that way for the next 2 hours or so. Don't worry. That's normal. But this is the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable, and I'm the host, Chris Quinn, and essentially what this show is my trying to recreate one of my favorite things about the beer industry, which is sitting around with people whose opinions I respect, who are part of the beer industry, whether it's, or wine industry in this case, perhaps. And that could be whether they are making beer, serving beer, selling beer, marketing beer, doing whatever. Producing shows about beer, and getting them all to talk about, different topics that are relevant to, what we've decided to, how we've decided to make our living, whether, that was a mistake or not. That's too late. We're not going to talk about it now. What's done is done. So now we'll just have a round table. But let me introduce my guests. We're a pretty lean crew. I was just talking with Mr. Velicki today. He said the shows with fewer guests are better. So Mike Shalal must have heard that and gotten the flu because he was supposed to be on the show, but he's not. So now I'll introduce my guests. Of course, their opinions are their own and only their own, not affiliated with any other thing, entity associated with them, such as Lumpen Radio or anything else. With that said, I'll start the introductions. I go in order of seniority, that being how many times you've been on the show. And with, Mr. Dust abdicating that throne tonight, I think it goes over to Queen Kona, Kate Tronica herself, back after a long hiatus. How are you?
Good. I've been in the tropics for a very long time.
Is that where you're calling from now?
Yes, I'm calling from the tropics right now, exactly. Just
you have
the
a sweater
general
on.
tropics.
Yeah, the
Well,
tropics.
I turned the air conditioning on, so
too
you guys
hot.
didn't feel so bad in Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah. How have you been?
Good. I've been good. It has been a while since I've
a
been
long
on
time
the
since you've been on the
podcast.
show.
Yeah. But yeah, I've been good. I'm still working with Pipeworks, but now I have actually moved. So I live in New York now and work remotely. So kind of a big personal change for me and for the brewery. But it's been working out, so it's been good.
And you're calling from Brooklyn or New York? Hey, wait, are you in? No.
No, yeah, I'm not in Brooklyn,
You're in
but
Manhattan.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I just assume everybody now moves to Brooklyn. That's where everybody
That makes
moves.
the most sense, but I think that's why it might be more pricier now or something. But
But you're in New York calling from there, and
Yep.
I can see a little bit of you on FaceTime. Am I looking at all of your apartment?
no, this is actually
Okay, because I can see at least 5 square feet.
Yes, I've rented out a whole room just to appear more lavish. Than I'm
Yeah,
actually.
right. To impress people. Okay.
I'm at a broom closet in a coffee shop right now. So
Well, cool. What's up with you? How's it been working remotely for Pipeworks?
it's been good. It's definitely been a change and something that would only be possible if we were, because we are so kind of online and spreadsheet based, and we use Slack and a whole bunch of other, ways of communicating online. So because of that, I think it's actually been pretty good. Definitely, a change from walking around the brewery and being at the brewery every day for years. But
Yeah,
I think
since the beginning.
Yeah, since the beginning. Yeah, exactly. So, since 2011 or 12. So it's not exactly very different, but different enough for sure.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
thanks for calling in, for FaceTiming in.
Oh yeah, this is great.
Cool. And my next guest is Mr. Now, I know your first name is Donn, but everyone pronounces your last name different. So you're going to pronounce your own last name.
Yeah, I would just love to hear you go for it. So it's
Bichsel.
Bichsel, you got it.
Oh, that is right. Okay.
Wow. I think the best thing about the last name is knowing that my wife had to change her middle name just because of my last name.
What was her middle name?
So my wife's first name is Arian, Arian, and so everybody calls her Arian, and her middle name was Michelle. So she works in the hospitals, and she used to get paged with Arian Michelle Bichsel. So,
That's awesome.
Ooglia googlia.
That's great.
That was very well done. I appreciate it.
Cool. What's up with you, man?
A little bit of this, a little bit of that, doing a little bit of traveling. Going to be in Kate's neck of the woods, actually, in a couple of weeks to talk to a couple of different breweries there. Doing a little bit of consulting since...
Yeah, what's the name of that consulting firm?
3-Tier Beverages. And I think that at this point in time, I thought I was going to be providing, thanks to our good friend Kevin Carey from Beguile. It was kind of his idea. He said that he couldn't bring me on full time, but he could look at bringing on a fractional me. So I looked at the space overall and started doing some consulting for different breweries, and So it's had me a little bit of here, a little bit of there, a lot on the East Coast, and a little bit here in the Midwest.
You're too much for any one brewery anyway, man.
Yeah, well, ask any brewery that's worked with me, and they'll tell you the same thing as well.
So everyone just gets a little piece.
Well, that's about all that they really need. A little bit more than that's probably a little bit too much for anyone.
Yeah, but yeah, you've been. I mean, your name's been out there. Where were you? Were you on? Was it Brewbound who was writing articles about you?
Yeah, you know the good thing about the beer industry, as we know, is that it's a very small world. It's a great little collective of humans that have known each other for a long period of time. And I sat on the sidelines for a little bit trying to figure out what was next, and started getting calls. And one of them came from Chris Funari, who used to be the editor at Brewbound, and he put out the first article about my departure from Rev. And then Justin Kendall from Brewbound followed that up, just kind of talking a little bit about what I was looking to do in the space and the opportunities that were out there to kind of provide some value to breweries. There's an interesting time, as we all know, that's happening right now in our industry, and it's kind of fun to be able to step back in again and play a little bit with the smaller players that are trying to figure out their next steps.
Yeah, interesting. That's what a lot of people say. That's the word they use. Is interesting. It's an interesting time.
I spent a little time today with a couple breweries out in the western suburbs, the very beautiful western suburbs of Illinois.
You were talking about how beautiful they were. I couldn't get you to stop talking about how beautiful they were.
At Napertucky is about the most beautiful place I've ever gone to. My hands shake a little bit when I start passing O'Hare out of the city, but it's good to go out there and see what some of the breweries are doing now, and especially the way that they're really embracing the own premise. That's the part of the business that's really still growing strongly, and looking at ways that they're trying to figure out how to navigate the distribution space. It's been
a long tail, as Bart Watson called it.
Yeah, I actually talked to Bart yesterday about this, and Bart is right on. I mean, the long tail is actually still wagging this dog, and
do you think so? It's wagging the dog?
Yeah, I think very much so, and I think that the innovation is still coming from that space. I don't think that they're chasing as much as the big breweries are, so it's kind of romantic to get back to the basis of what craft beer really is, and that really does stem locality-wise. And the big thing, I had a lunch today in Naperville, and it was very interesting to see the draft lineup, because it was all breweries that were no further than about 5 miles away.
Really? In Naperville?
Yeah, and in Naperville. And there was no large breweries. I mean, the large breweries here in Chicago were not represented. And it was really kind of fascinating to me to see what's happening in Boston, and what's happening, obviously, Kate, as you know, in New York, is happening segmented-wise here in the Chicagoland area as well.
Which is what, just hyper local?
Well, super hyper local.
Oh, yeah. Did you coin that term?
No, I think
super hyper local.
Kate, didn't you say that actually?
Double secret probation.
I think I'm coining super duper hyper local.
But not out yet, so nobody uses it.
No, yeah, that one's still available.
I'm going to unveil it.
Just did a quick search.
Serge, you're usually I'm going to call you on mic. It's a pretty rare thing, but you got to put an over under. How many names is Donn going to drop over the course of the show?
6.
All right, the over under set at 6. 6 name drops.
Kate, how many, please?
I think I got to go in double digits here. I mean,
all right,
I'm going to
she's
go
over.
at least 30. It's a long show. There's only 2 of us, so we got to fill that time.
Yeah, Kate, I think that you're low. I go a little bit higher there. Okay. Now, let's just say, what's the over under on breweries is double. How many is the over under on names of brewery owners?
Okay. Start keeping a very detailed spreadsheet going on over here.
Well, let's go on. We're going to have a special guest in the second half of the show. Mr. Freddie Brown is also here in the studio, and he's here to talk about tariffs in the second half, something that I think is, I'm looking forward to talking to Freddie. So thank you, Freddie, for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, guys, you're all veterans here. What are some beers that you guys have had lately that have been exciting to you, or that you're excited to try, if there are any? Anything at all? No. I'm
yeah.
looking at. Oh yeah. What's up, Kate? I know. I was looking at Donn's face.
I was
I
grilling.
can't see him, so
Yeah.
no
Sorry.
offense.
He can see you because you're on a screen, but you can't see him.
Okay. So all those names were just
Yeah.
gone out of his mind.
Yeah.
Well, I think every time I'm on the show, I feel like I almost name drop Folks Beer Brewery in Brooklyn.
Folks
But
Beer.
I just had a delicious dunkel from them, and they're making really excellent stuff as always. And then I bought myself a bunch of beers to have, so I was better informed about some topics today on the show.
Look at you.
I know. I'm doing, homework, I guess.
Yes.
And one of them is the Sierra Nevada barrel-aged narwhal can, and I'm intrigued to try that I haven't opened it yet, but
You're gonna try it live. You're gonna give
try
it live.
We're gonna do it live, Chris.
We'll do it live.
We're
All
doing
right.
it live.
Wow, a live
Yeah.
review. No, you don't have to review it, but cool.
If you start to hear me just gagging or making audible, sounds, you'll know.
What other beers did you bring in preparation or buy in preparation?
All light beers. So
Okay.
Light beer, Light Force from UFO, Slightly Mighty from Dogfish Head, the hazy low-cal beer from Peak, and Slow Low, and then Miller Lite I just had in the fridge. So.
And the Miller Lite you
Yeah.
had in the fridge.
Had it in the
and
fridge.
What's the one rule, Don?
Yeah, I know.
Are you going to curse next?
Yeah,
You're going to
but
break both of them all at
Well,
once?
I couldn't read this actually because I'm old, so I had to pull it closer to my eyes. So there might be a beer on the table right now that's open, so I've taken it away.
Yes, there's no longer an open beer there. Okay. So then the beer, Folks Beer, was the Dunkel from Folks Beer, is what you like?
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
me, I was
and-
going to... Sorry, what's up?
Oh, and a little brewery called Was makes a really good beer called Tree Topper, and that was very good too.
That's the second show in a row that Was has gotten a call out from a guest as the beer they're into.
Really?
Looks like...
That's because Mike's paying us all.
I was going to say,
publicity budget.
his
This is
influencer,
marketing.
he must have hacked my guest schedule and just seen... And he's like, well, if I'm on the show with you, it's going to be weird. So I'll say I have the
Yeah.
flu. You say you are loving it.
Kate, is that about $5 a mention? How does that work?
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Don?
Is that about $5 a mention that Mike is giving you?
Yeah, exactly. So not enough. I'll be
Exactly.
hitting him up for more after this.
You just have to say it more often. Just drop it,
He only
all
gave
the
me
time.
$5, so I'm only saying
Oh.
it once. Done.
Okay.
I will
Well.
never speak his name.
That's your bad. For me, I was going to do the BA Narwhal 4-pack cans that are now available year-round. Year-round, 100% barrel-aged, Imperial Stout, 12%, in 16-ounce cans.
It's pretty good. I just tried
It is
Yeah,
good.
It is pretty
No,
good.
it's solid.
That sounded an awful lot like a commercial. I just want to call that out.
Right? No calls
They're
to
paying
action.
me $10 a mention.
Yeah. $10 per bottle cap equivalent verbal review.
I got to pay for these New York rents somehow,
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
going to be mentions on the Beer Temple Insider app.
Yeah, I'm trying to rent this broom closet.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, what do you think about that, Don? And Kate? You guys have done barrel aged releases year round. It's $20. Bourbon barrel aged Imperial Stout, 12%, 16-ounce cans.
I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's an audience for it. I mean, it depends on the price point and the approachability, but I definitely think if you look at what New Holland's done with their milk stout and the fact that continues to grow, there's definitely an audience for it at the right price point. It's just kind of depending exactly on what that is, but that under $20 seems to be the threshold, and I definitely think that there's an audience out there for it. Whether or not they're going to cross over into the suburban grocery store shoppers is, on a consistent basis is going to be interesting to see, but it's definitely out there to grab.
I'm curious if that segment, the bourbon barrel aged stout, especially the 100%, because there is Dragon's Milk from New Holland, but that's not 100% barrel aged. This is one of the first that I've heard someone come out and say, this is year round now. I'm curious if that's going to diminish its appeal to the people who might be buying it, because it's so associated, right or wrong, with like limited, rare, whatever term you want to use. What do you think, Kate?
I think it's actually going to be really good for barrel age programs in general, for people to kind of have a standard to, if they are going to do limited releases and if they are going to do things that encourage people to like come out for this one beer. This is kind of like a not generic, but a standard that people can use now to say, well, is it more special than this? And it's also a really good entryway for the consumer who's not going to stand in a line and wait for a special release. They can try something that's barrel aged, and maybe they'll find that they love it, and then now this is their new thing. I think branching or reaching out to kind of new consumers, new demographics, people who aren't just the typical craft beer consumer, and introducing them to something like a barrel-aged beer is kind of difficult for small craft breweries. And I think that what Sierra Nevada is doing here might actually kind of do that for everyone. Kind of have like a reach out and show everybody what this style is. Like I just said, it's a pretty good example of it. So
yeah, it is pretty
it's
good.
not going to turn people off. If it was bad, I would actually be like kind of upset about it, because it could be bad for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I guess when it's going to be in so many places, it could be, it could influence the entire perception of the segment for some people. What, Donn, any beers that you've had or are looking forward to having that?
Yeah, you know what? I just wanted to kind of follow up on what Kate just said.
You're taking notes. This is amazing.
Kate, I agree with you, and I love the word generic as well. I mean, I was going to lead off with the same as well. It's not the perfect word, but I think it's it brings more people into that category. I think that we've all been talking to the same consumer and fighting for the same consumer for so long. It's great to see one of the, I don't know if stalwart is the right word, but one of the legacy brewers come out with something like this and make it so it's more approachable for everyone. I think it does nothing but lift the category up as a whole. You kind of see what Sierra Nevada did with the hazy and what they've done for that category. I think that they made it more approachable for the masses, and it's kind of nice to see as the herd is following everybody. It's good to see that the industry leaders are doing something like this. I think that it's going to make the price points come down a little bit. It might hurt It might hurt some of the ones that are out there trying to get $40 for a bottle, but I do think that it's going to bring more people into the category as a whole. I love it. I applaud it. I love when these big breweries do things like this.
I mean, Sierra Nevada was one of the first breweries that was making really hoppy beers. That was sort of my personal entryway into IPAs as a category. So
like
if you
Torpedo or something?
Exactly, yeah. So if you think about people who are also kind of looking for an entryway into a type of beer, I'm glad that it's this, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't think that there's very few breweries that I think that hold the cred that they do to be able to do it.
And that other breweries can kind of trust too.
Yeah, very much so.
To do well by the category, or just do well as someone who is going to be the kind of standard bearer, as you were saying, for
the consumers. I mean, it's and I think that you just hit it too. I mean, it's not just the other brewers; it's the consumers trust a brand like Sierra. It's not like they don't trust another brand that I can't even think of one to name appropriately. But obviously Sierra Nevada is one that they trust to bring out a quality product that's that they can rely on at a good price.
So let's the one question I was going to have. What's up? What's going on?
Oh, well, I'm just interested to see what this does to like a Goose Island Imperial Stout. Like, will they have to roll? I mean, is this in the same competition, just size, volume, price point? They've kind of both tried, like Sierra Nevada's obviously trying maybe approachability here. They've tried to do super rare. I'm just interested to see, I guess, because they have the capability, obviously, in size and backing to come out with something that's
it's
maybe
interesting.
in conversation.
I was going to talk about the formatting size, but it is interesting. It's 16 ounces per can. You get 4 of them for $20. That is less than, let me think, that's less than half of what the equivalent of Bourbon County would be. They're 500 mil, so they're essentially 17-ounce bottles instead. But those I think now are $11 a bottle for 17 ounces. If Bourbon County does want to go year-round or does want to go into a 4-pack, which I personally think I've been saying that they should go into 4-packs. I wish they never had left that format, but I think they're going to come back to it personally. It might make it a little bit more difficult now. I don't know if they're planning on it still being a kind of in-and-out seasonal type deal, but if Sierra Nevada is going to be at some of these same places at half the cost, is it going to be, can Goose Island justify being twice as expensive?
You know what I was just going to say first, Kate, and you probably didn't see it, but watching him pull the abacus out and do that math was, brilliant to watch.
You saw
Chris.
the little hamster in my brain.
It was pretty amazing to watch that work and to watch the way that he was able to convert milliliters and so forth. It was brilliant.
Mm-hmm. What's a milliliter? I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I haven't either. You know what? Here, I'll take this and then hand it back over to Kate. But you know what? I think it's definitely going to affect the way that they go to market. I mean, they're Bourbon County for Goose Island. You know, it's you look at the price point that they were able, and you have to give them credit for pushing price as long as they have. I mean, the amount of money that they've made for other breweries by pushing price up there, nobody gives them credit necessarily for that. I mean, they are the ones that were the price leaders for years. If they are now giving up that throne, they're giving it up pretty aggressively. I mean, the difference in their price point now to what Sierra Nevada does, it kind of smashes through that ceiling. I think it changes everything.
Mm-hmm.
The pricing on this beer?
Oh, very much so. I mean, if you've got something that's this much volume for that type of a price point, I mean, I think it changes the way that everything's perceived, especially because of the fact that it's not necessarily a special beer. This is an everyday product that's being put out there at this price. I think then you start looking at other products. What is their base beer cost? And you start then comparing it to Sierra Nevada. It's not like they're adding rice to this beer. It's not like they're adding ingredients that is dumbing it down, that's getting it to this price point. And the fact that it's 100% barrels, I mean, it is very interesting when you look across the horizon and see some of the larger breweries that are putting out mass quantities. Selling on price is going to become more difficult for them, especially as they get into the mass grocery or mass channel as opposed to independents.
It seems to me kind of like, I don't know how they structure all their beers but Goose Island is sort of, the Bourbon County has been their super premium item. So I don't know if I see them bringing that price point down, because I think that lends them sort of legitimacy as a brand overall. But it'll be interesting to see if they maybe retaliate with something that's a different brand, something new, that's just sort of generically barrel-aged.
But not Bourbon County.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be surprised if they touch that specific.
What's the alcohol content on Bourbon County?
It changes year to year, but I think it's probably around 12, 13.
Yeah.
I don't think it's
one of those sessionable ones.
Yeah.
Maybe they're going to make a sessionable.
So, Kate, you don't think they're going to touch it even in terms of format? You think they're going to stay with that 500 mil for a while?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't see them necessarily needing to immediately change that brand in order to respond to this Sierra Nevada beer. But
I'm not saying necessarily because of this beer. I'm just saying in general, you don't think they're going to touch. I mean, completely aside from Narwhal.
Okay.
I don't know. I see that stuff really starting to gum up the works in a lot of shops. It is. I mean, they got to do something with it. They're making a lot, and you can only make so many variants of it, I would think. But I don't know. My
yeah,
prediction, anyway. I think it's going to go to 4-packs. Personally.
yeah, that's
Yeah, I
12
agree.
ounce 4-packs maybe.
Yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
about the size, but I think they're going to go to 4-packs as well.
Okay. Well, Donn, you've had plenty of time now. You've killed plenty of time. Is there a beer that you're excited about or that you've had that you've liked? I'm not going to let you get away.
I really have, and it's actually half a joke. A person I used to work with has gone to work for a mass company, and I have been drinking an awful lot of old style lately, which is kind of funny because that was the hat that I kind of rolled in on. But you know, I think that for me, I've been drinking an awful lot of. I'm in a very unique position recently that I've been drinking a lot of breweries that I don't think I ever would have tried before. So to kind of point it into one, I mean, you know, what I was drinking tonight was an Alter Brewing beer, and you know, I kind of wrote it down because of the fact that I am old and I can't keep track of what I was drinking. But I was drinking a Popular Kid. I was drinking that earlier tonight, and it was good. It was enjoyable for me to get outside of my norm, and my norm is drinking Bell's Two Hearted, Bell's Two Hearted, Bell's Two Hearted. I mean, that's my kind of go-to beer that I get made fun of constantly by my children. As,
really?
I for some reason think that if I work out long enough at our health club, I can then go to the bar that's at our club and have a Bell's Two Hearted. But I guess to answer the question, I've been drinking a little bit of everything lately, but my go-to is Bell's Two Hearted.
So, you know, that now that you're a consultant, you've got to be, you got to know what the kids are drinking, what's cool, what's hip. So have you drank any new styles or anything like that have intrigued you or that you just don't get? Or do you drink, have you always drank or kind of tasted pretty broadly to try to see what's up? What's the next big thing? You can consult and tell people.
You know what? I would love to tell you that over the last few months, I have tried things that are unique, things that are different.
You'd love to tell me this?
Things that are pressing boundaries. But I think the biggest thing and the scary thing for me is what I've seen out there is the fact that every single brewery, unfortunately, of, you know, maybe size between, you know, and I don't want to generalize it, but it's usually 4,000 to 10,000 barrels. They're all chasing the same styles. There's not a lot of breweries right now that are going out on a limb to create something new outside their tap rooms.
They're all doing like honey lagers and amber ales, and they just won't break away from that.
Yeah, they just won't stop. You know what I mean? It's the Belgian Pale one after another.
Everyone loves those styles.
It's the milds. They just won't stop. But it really is the herd mentality, and it has gotten its way all the way down into most of the smaller breweries. They feel like if they don't at least explore with a seltzer or explore with a kettle sour or explore with a low-cal, that they're missing out. And I think that that's one of the things that, you know, kind of concerns me for the industry overall is the fact that you can't have 8,000 breweries moving in the same direction. I saw the other day online, one of the kind of the coolest things I'd seen in a while was Deschutes. And Deschutes is coming out with a high calorie, high carb, high alcohol content beer. You know, I obviously they're being a little kitschy probably with it, but I do applaud the fact that they're going against the grain and doing something that's not like everybody else is doing.
I will say that a friend of the show, Jerry Nelson, Loudmouth Jerry, as most of you guys know him, he was on that tip well before everyone else with a beer called Massive Gains 5000, in which he put literally, I think, like, you know, hundreds of pounds of powdered weight gainer into his stout. Apparently, when you dump protein into a beverage that is supposed to, I think you then boil it and the proteins all come out, it doesn't really work.
Yeah.
So he had to scrap the batch. That doesn't mean that he wasn't onto something and that Massive Gains
It was just
that people
massive
don't-
losses on that one.
Yeah, people want gains. People want their gains, and I think he was onto something. So, if the shoots came in and tried after him, that more power to him. But we know, Jerry, you and I, who really was the pioneer in the gains segment of craft beer.
Yeah, I just looked it up, and actually there is an asterisk there under the Deschutes name, so I'm sure that they're going to give him credit soon.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It was probably some sort of a collab with the Vitamin Shop and Jerry Nelson. You are listening to WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM Lumpin Radio. This is the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable, and I think it's about time for some underwriting. So I think we'll take about a minute or so, maybe 90 seconds, if Serge is feeling frisky, and then we'll come back with more of the show. See you then. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn. Faded in beautifully by producer Serge. Master. He's teaching a master class in fade-ins. If anyone's interested, just hit him up.
Definitely not teaching a master class. It's not true, and I'm probably going to mess up at some point in this show because whenever you compliment me, that always happens.
Classic Serge understatement. Anyway, more info on the master class will be in the show notes. You can sign up. Serge will be there and will be teaching.
Well done,
Yeah,
Serge.
well done. All right. So I am here with my guests, Donn and Kate, and you were talking, Donn. You said the topic that you wanted to start out with. You demanded we start by talking with. Oh no,
It wasn't demand. Come on.
well my computer is now. Oh
Good.
no, it's
Kate,
it's
what did
working.
you want to demand
No, you
to
want to
start
talk about
with?
dry January. You said you wanted to.
I just thought it was a good segue.
Yeah. So it was essentially there was an article from a friend of the show, Kate Bernat of Good Beer Hunting Sightlines, and she had an article talking about how dry January was a bust, apparently, and that while 20% of people said they planned on participating in dry January, year-over-year numbers were actually up. But that, I guess, could mean that just dry January was a bigger thing last year. But what do you write? You're writing something for me?
3.3% up.
3.3% up. Year-over-year, though. Yeah. Is that a lot? 3.3 sounds like a lot.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
Kate, don't you think that's a lot?
Yeah, I think so. I'm more of a sober October gal myself, but I kind
Zing.
of need a beer, I think, to get January.
Well, you know what? If we're really beer people, aren't we kind of looking at the fact that the weather was a lot more mild this year, so people were out more?
Yeah.
You know, aren't we supposed to blame the weather on everything? So the weather was better,
absolutely.
so people drank more. Or maybe it was because they just drink more White Claw.
Well, yeah, seltzer. So, seltzer was supposed to die off in the winter. Looks like that hasn't happened. Looks like people are grabbing claws when it's cold, when it's warm, all the time. Can't get enough. Can't get enough.
I think the thing that's amazing to watch, though, is the non-alc category and seeing how much growth is potentially there. I'm definitely on the naysayer side of this. I'm not exactly
NA stuff.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how much
And
growth.
two.
I don't know how much growth there really is there. I know that there's a lot of people that kind of believe in it. I think that there's definitely something there, but a venture into beer isn't exactly always a venture into flavor. And, I think that if somebody's venturing into a
Flavor
non-alc
country.
product,
Venturing in.
I don't think they're venturing into beer as their non-alc choice. So
Strap up. You're heading with Donn into flavor country.
Flavor,
You're
baby.
venturing in there, baby.
Give me
whether you want to or not.
give me a Heineken, baby. That Heineken 0.0. If I really want to get my groove on, that's where I'm
The
going.
flavor foothills.
I think
Not flavor country. What's up?
I was going to say, I think it's interesting how in some other cultures, non-alcoholic beer doesn't really have the same sort of like negative connotation of being kind of gross or like culturally weird. I know like in Spain in particular, it's very common to order a non-alcoholic beer and like nobody will bat an eye at you over it, which I've always thought was kind of strange. And I think like as soon as we start seeing more people drinking beer and the kind of the locale thing being spread across different types of breweries, not just kind of like the light category and macro beers, we might actually see some pretty interesting non-alcoholic beers, but it will have to be a complete cultural change. I don't think that it'll necessarily be the same people. It won't just be like pregnant women. It would have to be a totally different shift. People drinking beer for different reasons, but I agree it's not really the Flavor Town. The other beer
getting smaller and smaller.
Well, you know,
I'm a Guy Fieri person.
Yeah.
Just like I'm always bucking the trends. I'm Sober October and Guy Fieri. I guess.
Flavor drive-in.
But Kate, like to your Sober October, it's like during your Sober October, and I usually like to pick out April because I need to survive St. Patty's Day, and but. I don't find I find myself drinking a hell of a lot of LaCroix. I know that Doug Valicki would like me to say that I was drinking Spindrift, but I'm not a fan. But
do you mean non-alcoholic? Is that non-alcoholic hard seltzer? Is that what that is?
That's exactly what it is. But I don't find myself driven during a time that I'm not drinking to drink a non-alc beer. That's the thing, and I know, and I do agree with you about like cultural acceptance and kind of the way that it's perceived. But I'm not sure exactly if my mind is set up that way. That I think beer, I think alcohol, and I always order now low alcohol beer, so I'm getting there. But I don't think that I personally am ordering a non-alc beer when I'm not drinking.
Sure. I guess I see it more as kind of, okay, so if you look at like a 4% beer, that maybe a couple years ago would have been branded as a session beer. Like, hey, you can drink a ton of these and you won't get to get your buzz. And now that's kind of fallen by the wayside. And now it's more like, hey, it's only 3% alcohol. It's better for you. There's only this many calories. So that shift alone has been pretty intriguing to me, and I guess I'm just excited to see if it continues. You know?
There's a few things that I think, and I think I tend to agree with both of what you guys said. And Donn, I tend to agree with you that, to me, I don't think that there's not going to be non-alcoholic beverages or even a rise in non-alcoholic beverages. I just don't know why that needs to be beer. I think something else could fill that space in such a better way than something trying to be something it isn't. In the U.S., at least, it was always, guys who aren't allowed to drink anymore, but just want that flavor. They want to return to flavor country, even though if it's really them just with the the Oculus
just so know, if we see this in the next month or so that Heineken rolls out with come back to flavor country, it's going to be the greatest thing in the world.
Well, it's essentially the guy outside of the Walmart with the dime and the little like pony that like rocks back and forth. And then he's just imagining he's in flavor country. But the other thing that Kate was talking about with locale versus session, and I forget, it was probably Doug. Whenever something smart was said, I just assume it was Doug who said it, was talking about how, session didn't really... what does session mean to somebody? Maybe a Brit, it means something, but to Americans, a session IPA, it doesn't really mean anything. But
it means bad.
But locale means something to people.
Yep.
It was someone on last week's show, so let's just say it was. We'll say it was Doug, even though he wasn't on.
Way to go, Doug! I know you're listening. And you're one of the 7.
But I think that's a good point. Is that session IPA may have just been a branding issue, but people know what locale means. Miller Lite has a proven track record, and Coors Light and Bud Light and all that stuff. So, and they might not want to go as far as calling it Two Hearted Light, although they are calling it lighthearted, so maybe they are.
Yeah,
so
that's brilliant.
Yeah. So I think, there's going to be a space for that. I am starting to wonder at what point is the experience of reaching for a craft beer so different that you should just reach for something else. So almost like a NA beer. Like, why not just reach for something different? People are complaining about lighthearted, which I like. Lighthearted, it's a fine beer. It's very low alcohol. It's very light bodied.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just kind of wondering about the complaints. Maybe I just haven't been in tune to it too much. But what are the complaints that you're seeing?
I don't know.
Reading.
If you ever
I haven't
Twitter,
read it,
but people just don't like it. They say it's light. They say it doesn't taste anything like True Hearted, and
Is it supposed to taste like?
No. Well, I think if people, it's like the people who are saying like, it says maple in it, and I can taste things other than maple, so I'm angry. It's they want to be drinking Mrs. Butterworth, and if it says maple on the label, I think they want it to taste like Two Hearted, exactly like Two Hearted, but probably with more citra hops and also 110 calories and whatever it is.
I just like that they're angry. I just have I've got this vision of angry people like storming the castle in the middle of Michigan.
Kalamazoo, yeah.
Oh God, Larry, we're coming for you.
Yeah, this lighthearted abomination.
Did Larry count as a name drop?
Yes, absolutely. Well, no, because you didn't associate any personal interaction with him.
Kate, what's the ruling on that one?
No, I have the final ruling. That's down. Kate's also. I cut her mic apparently. Serge knew what I was thinking because we can't hear you anymore. Oh, she's
there
back.
you go.
There she goes. Okay.
Kate, what was the ruling on that one?
I'm going to count it just because I have to get up to 30 to cash in here. So.
All right. So, what were we talking about? We were talking about lighthearted. No, we were talking about
we were talking
calorie.
about the fact that people are upset about the taste of lighthearted. I think that the expectations of the consumer for it to taste exactly the same are misguided if that's actually what's out there online. I mean, I tasted it. I thought it was a great addition to the Bell's portfolio. I didn't expect it to taste like it. I'm not going to drink it because I work out really hard and I think I deserve
and
a
it doesn't
full-hearted.
happen to be on. And it doesn't happen to be on draft at your gym.
Yes,
if it were, you would drink it.
No, I would not. I would still drink the full-hearted.
Well, we were talking about this before, Donn, and my the way I think of it is, that is why you work out. You work out so you can drink a Two Hearted. I mean, that's for me. Like, if I were to exercise, it would be so that I could have a cheeseburger. It's not like I'm going to exercise and never have anything tasty. Logan will be very angry with you. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I put down the glass in the wrong spot
shaking
again.
my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, you work out so you can drink and eat bad things. I mean, what's the point?
I mean, I don't know.
I mean, you don't your BMI. You really want your BMI to get lower? No, you want it to stay the same.
Yeah. You just want to get to stasis and not just get morbidly obese from drinking beer.
Kate, have you tried this yet? Have you tried the lighthearted and versus?
I haven't. No, I haven't tried that one. I was kind of hoping to find it today when I went to the store and was just like, "What beers do you have that are branded as low-cal?" And the guy, I was like, and then I immediately was like, "I'm not that kind of person. I'm gonna."
Yeah, right.
Don't
exactly.
judge me. I'm not that girl.
But do you expect it? Do you expect it to taste the same? I mean, I guess that's my curiosity. I mean,
I think what's interesting is that, so, and also comparing, so I don't know if this transitions into the topic about light beer that
segue,
we're maybe going to segue in. So Miller Lite is 96 calories. This is not a plug or a placement. It's not a commercial.
Factual.
Factual. And so are a lot of these other beers. But the difference is that I think that they're responding to what people are used to with Bud Light, Miller Lite, the complaint being that they're, quote, watery or watered down. And so I think that now branding as low calorie or low-cal instead of light is specifically to denote like flavorlessness. And
Great
it's like
taste, less
they're
filling.
yeah, but I mean, I think they're not trying to become Miller Lite, but they're trying to be like, better, more flavorful versions of what those types of beers have represented.
Yep.
It kind of not going to this is going to delve that way, but not wanting to go too deep into this. But do you think that's because of the fact that the price point on it is the same as Two Hearted? I mean, do you think that people would look at it differently if it was a $7.99 six pack as opposed to it being a $10.99 line item priced at the same price as Two Hearted?
I mean, I certainly think so. The prices were. Well, I'm sorry, Don. Could you sort of maybe I don't understand.
She wasn't listening to you, Don.
No, nobody listens to me, nor should they. No, I guess my question is, what I mean. I haven't read this, and so I'm kind of speaking out of just what I just heard. But
Out of your, never mind.
Go on. Out of my, I can't. You told me I couldn't say
expertise.
Out of my expertise. Yeah.
If my expectation is when I go to a bar, I'm going to spend $6 on a full flavored, high gravity beer or more. My expectation when I have a low gravity, low flavor beer is $4. So I wonder if the pushback on this is because of the fact that they're spending the same amount of money on, full flavored bells as they are on light flavored bells, if that's why they're reacting the way they are. And I think that their reaction is misconstrued, but I do wonder if that's got something to do with it.
Yeah, I think maybe I had to plug my phone in, so I'm not using headphones right now. I'm just using speakers. So I don't know if I sound off.
Nope.
Sound terrible.
Oh, good. Then I can stop unplugging and plugging back in.
You sound fine.
I need to talk.
Oh, because of the stupid lightning, there's only one thing. Got it. Anyway.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what it is. But I do think that it all comes down to branding. Maybe it was a misstep on. I don't want to say anything. Bell's never takes missteps, but maybe.
If they were, hypothetically, it may look exactly like this.
to brand it so closely to Hearted, because it is such a loved and endeared brand. It's like an iconoclast of in the beer category for sure. And he's just an icon for everything it's become. So for it to maybe be seemingly diluted, maybe people are angry about it. I don't know. But
best IPA in America,
according
truly.
to Zymergy. As long as isn't that who it is? That always gives it that award.
I'm sorry. Are we giving a plug to Zymergy?
No, I'm just saying according to Zymer. I mean, plug it while it's still around. I mean, the way every other publication's going.
Zymergy.
Yeah, Zymergy. That zing brought to you by Zymergy. I think with like low alcohol beers needing to be less money, I think people can probably I think these breweries can probably get around that.
I disagree.
Really?
No, go ahead, Kate. Sorry.
Oh, no. I think that these beers are largely kind of competing with like the White Claws, sort of, more or less. And those are obviously cheaper. So unfortunately, I think it is kind of going to have to be like a price comparison because the flavor isn't huge. All the beers that I tried tonight were pretty nice, but they don't, they are, it's not like you're tasting something that tastes, like that beer you need to, savor and work out for. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't taste as much like a treat or like a reward or something special. So I think it is going to have to be a lower priced item. I don't know. What do you think, Don?
Well, it goes back to
keep throwing it back and forth. No one ever throws it to me.
Well, we don't need you.
I feel bad.
Well, you know what? You keep plugging. Serge, are you on?
Serge, cut both their mics.
The hardest thing about it, Kate, is I wish the consumer would actually see it for what it is, and it goes to the entire independent. It goes to the entire craft movement as a whole. But I think when you start playing in that alcohol content, when you start playing in that lower gravity, I think that the mass consumer is going to expect the price point to be close to what the large industry leaders are. I mean, I think the separation in price can't be $2 or $3 to be successful for mass. Can it be successful for small independent? Yes, it can. Can you balance out the trade up or trade down by having a less expensive beer to be made by the price points and trade people up and down and keep them within your ethos and your overall umbrella? Yes, you can. But to be able to sell in mass quantities in the grocery channel in 12 packs that drive volume or 15 packs, you've got to compete in price. I just don't see.
Sure. I
don't see anybody spending $19.99 on a low gravity anything. At least in large quantities.
You have to compete, but you don't necessarily have to match. You might be able to find your own lane for that, where a low-cal craft could be maybe $2 more or $3 more.
Yeah, close in price.
Yeah. The other thing is, I think what we're seeing is, craft beer is it used to go after, at first, it was just the IPAs and stouts and those kind of styles that the big guys weren't really messing around with. And then you started seeing them go towards lagers. Then you started seeing them go towards the multi-pack doors of the cooler, and now you're seeing them go directly at them. I think they probably feel like they don't have a choice. Some of these big regional guys or national players are the ones who are doing this the most, and they're the ones who are getting nipped at and death by 1,000 cuts and all that stuff by these 8,000 U.S. breweries doing own premise and owning the local thing and 5 miles from my beautiful Naperville tap room and all that sort of stuff. It's like, well, we've got to go after the big guys. We feel like we have a better chance to go after them or compete with them in some sense than we do with all these super hyper uber local guys. Could it be that? It's like, well, I mean, nobody wants our IPA because it's not made down the street, and I can't get it in a crowler. So I have to make something that's going to compete with, Miller Lite or the Claw or something like that. What do you think? Hot take.
No, I agree with you completely, and I think that it's interesting to see completely.
Oh my God, I've never. Kate, I don't know if you can see him, but you should have seen his reaction. He was so wonderful. Excited. He slammed down like 5 things. It was awesome.
Great.
It's never happened before.
He was like, I win. Yes.
Now the show can be over. This is officially the last episode. I've achieved what I set out to do.
I think it's interesting to see so many breweries rolling out with sort of flagship low-cal beers when flagships are struggling.
It's flagship February. What are you talking about?
Hey, Kate, right now I'm going to bust open a Pabst Blue Ribbon hard coffee because it's flagship February. This counts, right?
Totally.
Totally counts.
Does.
I'll even give you a name drop for that.
Wait, hold on.
Oh, yeah, that sound of no carbonation.
That classic flagship sound, for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, Kate, before you were rudely interrupted in agreeing with me. But also, I will also interrupt you to say it's WLPN LP Chicago 105.5 FM. That's technically Serge being rude because he made me do it. Anyway, Kate.
Boo. Sorry, Kate.
Oh, no, I agree that I was interrupted. I'm just saying that when breweries are struggling to kind of find a new flagship or a new flagship category, we are seeing breweries like Dogfish Head, instead of releasing yes, they're releasing things all the time, but more breweries are now moving to release flagship low-calorie beers. And I think it'll be as a new addition. Maybe it wasn't seen like something that people would want before, But now it's like those are popping up in numbers instead of something like a red IPA or a red pale ale, or pale ales in general. I think are falling a little bit by the wayside.
You know, Kate, you were talking a little bit about flagship. Do you think that they're creating these things to fix their
beer? This tastes like cold Swiss Miss.
Come on, it does. It's awesome.
It tastes like Yoo-hoo.
It is
like
so
Yoo-hoo.
good. It tastes exactly like Yoo-hoo. It is, Kate. I just interrupted you the third time to drink Yoo-hoo, but that's exactly what it tastes.
Kate, have you had the PBR coffee thing? I just had it for the first time.
I have not.
Kate, it's amazing.
Like Yoo-hoo.
It's just like,
Whoa.
yes, it's so good.
That is crazy.
Yes.
It tastes like Yoo-hoo.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. It smells and tastes like Yoo-hoo.
Kate,
anyway,
Kate, you were saying about flagship though. Do you believe that they're starting this, that they're going down this path to create new flagships? Is that what I understand you were saying?
I just think that the flagship category in general is maybe faltering a little bit, and people can't rely on that, even in flagship February, for that volume to keep growing and growing. And I think that maybe introducing something like a low-cal beer as part of your flagship might have been seen as not cool and not craft a couple years ago, but now I think it's necessary in order to kind of compete.
Bud Light Seltzer. I mean, it is interesting to watch, and I do you think that it helps? I mean, I'm kind of curious too. Is that I kind of go back and forth with the idea of whether or not, the Two-Hearted, and to talk back to that again, if the Two-Hearted and the Light-Hearted actually helps the, I don't know if it's a hearted overview of it. I don't know exactly the way they're looking at it, but my belief is
black-hearted.
Well,
maybe
it helps the black-hearted as a whole, or didn't they make a triple-hearted?
No, they had double Two-Hearted.
Double Two-Hearted. But I guess my thing is does it help the entire umbrella as a whole over the flagship? I mean, I hate the word flagship, but I do know that breweries have got to have something that they stand behind. And I just don't understand personally whether or not in which case it actually waters it down, in which case it actually helps.
Well, this is a related question for you guys. Are these light low-cal IPAs, are they around in, let's say, I was going to say 5 or 10, but let's say 7 years. In 7 years, are these beers still around? Don's shaking his head no. What do you think, Kate?
I think yeah.
Nice.
This is
disagreement. I say no.
I don't know. I haven't had any of these before, and I've never sought out this category.
But that makes you think they're here to stay. I've never had them. I've never sought them out, but they're definitely here to stay. I've never felt.
Kate, come on, take a stance here, Kate. That's awesome.
I'm just saying, with all of my expertise now,
I do not want it.
Tried 5.
But I don't want it. But it will be here in 7 years.
The look on the person's face when I asked for them told me they are here to stay.
No, well, he just said, because he was like, "Oh, we've got more coming in now," and so he was literally putting them on the shelf when he was like handing them to me.
Wow.
And I asked him, I was like, do any of these sell more than other ones? See, I'm doing research. And he said that no, not really during the cold season, but he fully expects that they'll fly in the summer. And now that I'm trying them, like, yeah, I could see myself. I'd rather drink one of these than a what?
Than a what?
It's a collapse.
Than a White Claw.
Than a White Claw. Okay.
Yeah.
The hard thing for me is I think it's the beginning of the collapse. I don't want to say the collapse of craft beer, but I think it's going to start weeding out an awful lot of people. I'm not going to say the collapse, but I don't think in 7 years there's going to be room for 8,000 breweries to have the same product on the shelf. And that's the way I see this thing going right now, is the fact that everybody's rushing into this, like they're rushing into everything else. I think like every other thing that happens in our category, there's going to be 1 to 2 leaders, whether they're macro or micro or craft. And, I think the rest of them are all just going to get weeded out. They're going to have to go back to their corners and figure out exactly what their point of differentiation is, because you can't have 20 breweries in New York City or 20 in Chicago all making at the same price point the same type of beer and try to compete against Bud Light, Miller Lite. You can continue to nip away at them, but at the end of the day, they still have got the positioning that they're going to own and the pricing they're going to own at retail.
So, do you guys out there listening who work in the industry, I know you're out there. So you've got the founder of 3-Tier Consulting saying essentially the same thing that you're getting for free week after week right here. How long have I been saying that everyone is doing the same darn thing? I think this was my prediction like a year and a half ago of what needs to happen was people branching out and finding their own styles, that if nobody's making a nut brown ale, I'm not saying that I'm clamoring for it or anybody is clamoring for it, but there's enough people that if you make the most amazing beer out there that stands out from the crowd, you can carve out a little space for yourself. And I feel like that's what craft used to be much more. It was you had these weird beers like Tyranina's Rocky Revenge, which was a partial barrel-aged brown ale that was just this weird little awesome beer. Or furthermore, had this not stock Earl IPA Pale Ale, which was cool. Or there's countless examples of it. And I fear that these new breweries are so creative, like use that creativity in a different way to like kind of blaze your own trail in a way. I'll also say we had Serge and I had our very first ever like technical moment. We were laughing at the amazing crappiness of the acoustics of the broom closet that Kate is talking from. It was truly something special how bad it was.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It was funny. We didn't say anything. We just looked and we just kind of laughed because it was utterly
Kate,
terrible.
I think it's fantastic, by the way. It sounds
well,
great.
I have 13% battery or charge now, so I'm back in on headphones, so hopefully it'll be a little bit better.
You sound amazing. You're about to get a full 10 minutes of charge if needed. Because we're going to take a break unless you have anything you need to say before we go.
I certainly do not. Kate, how are we doing on my my count? Where we're at?
You're a little low. I think in the second half, I think I would.
You have
be great
to,
if you could pick it up.
Hey, Kate, do me a favor. Text me all the names that you want me to start with, and I'll get those out of the way.
With me.
one every 2 minutes is what you're going to have to do when we get back. I think you can
but,
do it.
But,
You'll just have to scale back a little bit from your normal level of name dropping.
By the way, I'm in.
Okay. Guys, we will be back, and we're going to take, DJ Serge. It's really up to him how long we go, but it'll probably be between 5 and 10 minutes, and then we'll be back with more of the Insiders Roundtable. Welcome back to the Beer Temple. That what you've just witnessed was a classic fade from Serge. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, and I am joined by my guests, Kate Brankin and Donn Bichsel. I've finally gotten it right.
Bichsel.
He claims it's Bichsel, but we all know. Obviously, if I got it right the first time, Donn, I know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, and I didn't just swear on air, did I, Kate?
You weren't on air. You were off mic a little bit.
Nice.
You did what we call here at Lumpen an Edmar. And I'm also...
That's a name drop, right, Chris?
Yeah.
Oh, that counts.
But not by me.
That
No, that takes it away from him.
So
he
that's
doesn't get that one. You
Yeah,
have to take
Kate,
that off your list.
that's a negative.
So we're gonna get to you, Freddie, very soon. I promise.
No
but
hurry.
in the meantime, Donn called Kate during the break and put her on speakerphone, and then Kate started talking about how there was a glut of what you call it, a glut of
I said, well, you
originality or something.
Uniqueness.
And then I made you stop immediately. Same for the
Stop. Don't talk. That's
Because
it.
I was going off of what you had said, that the breweries, you felt a brewery needed to kind of make something to leap up and to leap above sort of the fray of what other breweries have been making. And I think that's what you were saying right before we cut,
Kinda.
right?
I think I said I was saying go to the side, not jump above them. But
Well,
like,
I guess what
Yeah,
I'm
Kate,
saying,
Kate, don't give him that
there's-
much credit. You take the credit.
but anyway.
I don't really see a side anymore in the craft beer industry. I don't really
Okay.
know if like how you can move to the side necessarily. I think a lot of people now are sort of branding themselves by saying what they won't do instead of what they will do. So people who say, I only do lagers, or I only do saisons, or I only make farmhouse, or I'm only making healthy, organic, low-cal beers, which is a thing apparently. So I think that's almost how people are claiming that sort of loft above the fray, and because now so many, every other brewery has a barrel-aged beer, or every other brewery has an imperial stout with yada, 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 whatever, and special beers. There's like 4 on a menu at any given time. So unless I'm misunderstanding, I almost feel like exclusion or saying no to certain trends, styles of beer is maybe the only way to stand out, opposed to trying to focus energies on one specific thing, unless I misinterpreted you wrong.
I don't know if
Don's probably the guy to weigh in on this.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
weigh in.
just,
throw it over to Donn.
I'm just,
Let's just keep
Yeah,
that
what's up?
going.
I'm just.
You guys go.
I'm itching here. You know,
Yeah,
Kate.
please. No, I genuinely am just kind of tossing it out there.
No,
That's
no,
just what I see.
Well, and my struggle with that is I think that a lot of breweries are going down that path, but I don't think it's a path of longevity. I think it is such a short-term focus to try to pull yourself up away from the pack. But I think long-term, when you start to exclude yourself and segment yourself back into certain corners, especially with the amount of
I agree.
capacity that's online.
I
mean,
agree, too.
back
Yeah.
when there was limited capacity and you were a brewery that could only make 3,000 barrels, I think running back to your corner and staying in your corner worked. The hardest thing, and I think the thing that everybody's not afraid to talk about, but the thing that people aren't talking about more is the glut of capacity that is here right now in the United States, and the lack of capacity in certain types of canning and bottling that's available out there. There's so much fermentation capacity here in the United States that it really makes these breweries run towards that herd again and doesn't allow them to go back to their corners or go back to their ethos.
I will say, this is kind of a non sequitur, is new Sierra Nevada. This is going back to the low-cal health thing. They're launching a huge hard kombucha line. You guys hear about that?
Yep.
Yeah, big national thing.
It's interesting.
Yeah, so they're kind of getting into into that space in their own way. They're not going seltzer. They're going.
You're talking about
kombucha.
the space that they bought into, correct?
No, this is different. This is Sierra Nevada's own thing. This isn't that.
Am I confused? I mean, is it?
No, last year they bought another brand. No, this is totally different. This is like a Ken Grossman-led project, hard kombucha, Sierra Nevada, and it's coming soon apparently.
But is it led by the by the things that they've learned from purchasing the new kombucha company. I mean,
Wait, it was a kombucha company.
what wasn't
that
it?
they
Was,
bought?
am I confused here? Is it? Was,
You
was,
are confused. Yeah.
I thought it was Sierra Nevada that bought a kombucha company last year.
Let's look it up. Sierra Nevada purchase.
Kate, am I making this up here?
You're making it up.
You could be, or you might not be.
Acquisition
I don't know either.
buys Sufferfest Beer Company is what they're called. Is who they bought. So they bought Sufferfest Beer. This was from Brewbound, February 4th, 2019. So almost exactly a year ago. 100% acquisition. And it was I think it was, let me see. It was like an athlete's
active lifestyle.
Active lifestyle,
All right,
produced.
all right, so I was making that up.
You were making it up.
I was making that up. So I was
pulling it out of your expertise.
I was quoting Ken Grossman from a panel that I sat on with Sam Calagione from Dogfish Head and Matt Frazier from Canarchy.
I'm counting the
all
name
of
drops
those
right
count.
now. That was
All
very
of those
good.
count. All of those count because if you were with Donn, that's a normal sentence that might just come out of his mouth.
Kate, I almost couldn't get it out of my mouth.
But you did, and that's what's
I
important.
did, and that's all that matters.
And I'm crossing them off my list.
Yeah, they already does have a list. So you're a list guy. Anyway, dear Freddie here has been sitting very patiently. So I think we should bring him into the mix. He's got his headphones. He's got his mic. So here's the deal. You're now officially a guest. First-time guests introduce themselves. That's how we do it.
My name is Freddie Brown. I live here in the beautiful city of Chicago. I've been selling wine since 2004. I love the business. I want to most importantly, though, represent a group called the U.S. Wine Trade Alliance tonight, which is
that's what I'd heard about.
a humble beginning Facebook-only.
Well, Freddie, I think that might be a record. That might be a record. Well done.
I had all
Well
that time
done.
to prepare. I'm so sorry.
Well done. A true industry pro.
Look, a flock of turtles.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so this was a Facebook-only thing.
It's some.
I do believe you. And so you and Ed were talking to me over email, and you had a pretty interesting dilemma, I guess is a way to put it. But I thought, honestly, it might I thought it was pertinent to everybody else here on the show. So can you just tell me give me the elevator pitch you gave me.
Absolutely. This is
No
a
curse words.
wonderful and dynamic city with over 150 distributors of wine.
First wine pro ever on the show, by the way.
Oh, wow.
So for breaking, yeah.
And the beer is delicious. Thank you. If the tariffs, there are two separate ones. I'll get into that. But if the tariffs go to 100%,
So step back.
okay.
What's the deal with tariffs now?
So this all goes back to 2004. Boeing and Airbus are competing airplane
Yeah.
making companies,
The two big ones globally.
both subsidized heavily by their governments, and has nothing to do with wine. It has nothing to do with olive oil, the
Cheese,
cheeses,
yep. Mhm.
handbags, Le Creuset, all the things that
Maybe beer someday.
it is entirely possible.
Right.
But the way they've chosen to attack the EU in retribution,
U.S. You're talking about.
is for sort of culturally sensitive items. So it's there are two separate issues. That's the first one is strictly Boeing and Airbus dispute. The World Trade Organization ruled in October that the U.S. was free to add a tariff to recoup $7.5 billion annually. But there are
However they
no
want it.
guidelines of how to do it. But in my naive way, I would like to say Boeing and Airbus could, like work it out and
Be cool.
Someone could write a check or give the money back, what have you. But I know that's naive. It's not likely to happen
But what
soon.
they are doing is they're going after French, Spanish, Italian wines,
Yes.
stuff like that.
In October, a 25% tariff was levied upon wines, 14% alcohol and below
Yep.
from France, Spain, and Germany. Essentially, I mean, for all of my customers, sommeliers, the great wine bars of the city, these are the wines that are great with food. I mean, this is
Man, it's the great wines of the world. Even if there are other great wines, no one's going to say that you can have a complete wine program without something from France, many things from France, Germany, Italy, Spain, and other areas of Europe. Yeah.
Yes. So the 25% tariff went into effect as of October 18th. There were many distributors who, in the fourth quarter,
man. It sucked for a shop owner.
Absolutely,
It sucked.
Well, if it hit the importers and distributors particularly hard because the wine was already on the way. You're stocking up for the season.
Yeah.
The fourth quarter is when you sell half of the wine you sell all year.
Hit when it comes into the country, not when you ordered it, but when it hits land is when you get nailed
So
with it.
if you have a container worth $100,000, you have 120 days to pay. You need to pay $25,000 to get it out of the port of New Jersey.
Right.
Or wherever it lands. And so that essentially wiped out much of the profits that many companies were counting on.
And now
now there's a separate tax due to the digital services tax that's been threatened by Macron, and other European companies have also said, yes, Facebook, Amazon, Google, these people paid no taxes.
Yeah.
3% was what Macron suggested. And so the response was, well, how about if we just take that tariff up to 100%, which would then mean if you have
They all
100,
go out of business. Everyone goes out of business.
there would be 5 distributors left in Chicago.
Yeah, but I'm confused. I thought the French were paying for this tariff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, that was Mexico.
Oh, Mexico. I'm sorry.
The Mexicans are paying for the
The Mexicans are
for the
paying for
tariff.
It
the
is hard to keep track.
Yeah,
sometimes.
I'm just kind of confused there. I'm sorry.
No worries.
But I mean, and this is being voted on soon, right?
This week, Phil Hogan, who is the EU trade rep, is in Washington meeting with Robert Lighthouser, who is the U.S. trade rep, and they are having long conversations. There's the wine community has really banded together, although under very odd
Yeah.
and strange circumstances. But there's a guy from Charleston named Harry Root who has a wine company, and he has actually left his job and gone to Washington full time to lobby, and he's knocking on congressmen's doors.
What's
He's
the point? I mean,
making
you might as well leave your
presentations.
job to lobby, because if you don't, there's no
Absolutely.
job to have anyway. I mean,
Yes.
it is crazy, sad, and like I said, we've never had someone come on to kind of advocate strictly for a topic or an issue ever on this show, let alone somebody outside the beer industry. But I did think that this was important enough to have you come on, so thank you. But I just wanted to say
Thank
that
you.
it is not just that these entire companies will just cease to exist. It'll just go out of business. Everyone that they employ will go out of business. These wines or there's other stuff too will just cease being available. I mean, I'm sure
Yes.
some uber luxurious items will still, like handbags or something like that, if they're on. Were they on there? Or something?
Yes, they
Yeah.
are. They are.
Yeah, so some people will still just pay twice as much because that says Hermes on it or whatever it is. But I mean, the actual stuff that people want to drink, and the cheeses and stuff like that, just we don't get them
It's
anymore.
olive
You don't get
oil,
French
yeah,
wine.
it's-
You do not get Spanish or Italian olive oil. You
Yes.
don't get It seems unreal to me.
It is very hard to comprehend life without these things.
So what can people do? Is there
Well,
anything people can
the
do?
most important thing right now is for people to reach out to Congress, the representatives in the House, and to ask, like, do you recognize that this will cost potentially hundreds of thousands of American jobs? That's really what happens, is as it rolls through, the $10 bottle of Malbec that someone is ordering, Bordeaux, what have you, will go up to $20, assuming it comes. It might simply cease to be imported because no one's going to buy it.
Yeah, who's going to buy it?
Like, there are other ways to get drunk. Everyone knows this,
Right. There's other ways. It may not be your preferred way. You're probably not going to stop drinking wine because you cannot get, whatever it is, whatever kind of
Many of
Wednesday night wine that you like to have. You'll go to something else, and but I don't think that's necessarily good for the wine industry. I don't necessarily think it's good, that you're going to be moving to something that's made in another part of the country. I mean, these I think are significant and important regions and producing areas of the world for a reason. So if you guys are out there, I think we're allowed to have calls to action for this sort of thing. I think, especially when the owner of the station was the one who tipped me to this. Hey guys, it would be, if this is something that you guys care about, and I have a feeling that people out there do, an email and a call and stuff like that, they do go a long way. So stuff like that does matter. So reach out to your local representative and let them know that it's not okay for this stuff to just not be around anymore, and for your local shop to just not carry French wine. That's insane. It's crazy to say that. I mean, let's face it, they make the best wine in the world.
Yeah, but
they just do. And now we don't get it because of a tariff?
A friend of mine who works in the wine industry used to say it takes a lot of beer to make a lot of wine, and I think for
that
me,
is correct.
It takes a lot of wine to make a lot of beer. As the craft brewing industry kind of came up with the idea of small business and small people kind of joining together, and everything that's going on in the wine industry right now is really very similar to that scene. So I think it's very important to, continue to support small businesses. Even if you're not a wine drinker, it's still a small business. It's impeding people having small businesses and their ability to hire.
In the old world, in the old world, that is how it's always been. That isn't a trend in a lot of these places. That is just how it has been for generation upon generation. There is no such thing as kind of corporatizing of some of these things. These are family businesses, and it's just a more European model of kind of production for some of these wines. It's not like, we have a really popular wine, so what do? We're going to put in a massive expansion. We're going to buy the hill next to us. And some of them do it, but a lot of them don't. And these are the people who, not losing America is going to hurt them too. And,
it will devastate European farmers. China has begun already to pick up some of the slack. There was a huge decrease in December for French imports to the U.S., almost 40% down from the previous year. That was an immediate reaction. And I'm skeptical of whether China can continue to pick up that slack forever because their economy is slowing and, bring on the bird flu, There are other things that could go south. However, most of the distributors throughout America are built on the backs of European wine. There's about almost 40% of the consumption in the U.S. comes from Europe, whereas the U.S. wine, which automatically people might think, this is an opportunity for us. We could simply sell more, but it's ridiculous. We drink 8% of American wine. You might see it on a lot of lists in steakhouses and things like that, but it's a very small percentage comparatively, and all the distributors are based on European wines being slightly less expensive because the real estate has been paid for generations back, in many cases, not all, and land is simply more expensive here. Thanks to Prohibition, we have a very young wine culture, and so someone makes money racing cars, throwing baseballs, and then buys property in Napa Valley. And guess what? It's $90 a bottle.
Right.
It's not 15.
Or making movies. I mean,
Yeah,
of course. That's the most famous one, I would say.
Very
Yeah,
good.
but all of this stuff is so, it's the downstream. I mean, the way you look at this, especially in our industry, is the fact that people forget that there is somebody that's actually distributing, somebody that's selling, somebody that's driving, delivering these products. And I think that's the bigger story as well, is the fact that, the stranglehold on any product affects so many people, and downstream is probably not the most perfect word, but it really
it's great. It's a ripple effect.
But it really is. I mean, the amount of people it affects, and then when you think about beer and the way that it's sold here in the United States, especially the craft products, there's still an awful lot of the craft products that are sold through wine houses and independent spirit houses. So you're talking about those people's jobs as well that are representing our industry. I mean, these tariffs on products like this, it seem, at least to myself personally, to make very little self. And obviously they're not being borne by the countries that they are tariffed against. They're being borne against jobs that are here in the United States, and they're being borne against sales jobs. I've got plenty of friends that work in the wine industry, and they're getting crushed by this. And it's affecting local Chicagoans, and it's affecting people that sell booze here in the Chicagoland area every single day.
Yes.
Well, thank you for making me aware of it. And again, guys, go out there. And if someone were to call, what's a good way for someone to mention that or let their representative know what they are upset about it? Is there a name for this tariff, or is it just the wine and handbag tariff, or what is it?
It is either the digital services tax, or the Boeing and Airbus dispute.
Got it.
One of those two.
Cool. Thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you.
So we still have a little bit of the show left, and I think you can probably mention or chip in to this discussion, Freddie. So you said you were fascinated by this one, Donn. I'm just going to say you said, whether you did or not. I really just have to ask you because you have a lot of names still to drop. It was an article from craftbrewingbusiness.com. It says, what are college kids drinking these days? What do you think it is? Some big revelations, Donn.
Yeah, I don't think this is the one that I actually wanted to talk about. Oh. But thanks. That was...
you said that was fascinating.
No, I think the one that was fascinating was the one about breweries combining together with their forces.
There's no time. We have like 10 minutes left. There's like 15 minutes.
All right, so I really think...
This is what we call filler time.
I think that Mad Dog 2020 is going to make a big comeback. And I think that the craft brewery that figures out a way to put their beer into a bottle size like that alcohol content with that flavor profile, is going to kill it in the college towns.
Whoa.
Well,
Mad Dog.
That's a hot take.
Sierra Nevada, Mad Dog. Mad Dog Sierra?
Collabo.
Yeah, something like that. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm going with this.
Okay.
Sorry, Kate. This wasn't the topic I was prepared for.
Nevada Dog. Nevada Mad Dog.
But, Kate, later on tonight, I might text maybe Mariah or possibly Rob Todd at Allagash to ask them their opinions on this.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Wouldn't you? You have them on speed dial.
You have their numbers. You have their names. You have the capability.
But here's the thing. Young people, do you think it matters, Donn and Kate and Freddie, that liquor is by far the preference. Their favorite alcoholic drink is liquor for college kids. But then it's seltzer after that.
Is this comparative? I mean, I guess like
Comparative
obviously I was in college really not that long ago. Honestly, I'm extremely youthful.
Kate, thanks for that.
As we all were.
Yeah.
But I mean, like when I was in college, I didn't know what craft beer was at all. I didn't know what it was.
But you know what beer was. You know what beer was.
Yeah, but I mean that's because. So I mean that's what I guess I'm wondering, but not relative to liquor. I mean I think that I thought beer was maybe something you would play flip cup with at the time.
Okay.
So I mean I guess I assume obviously the spike in seltzer is very unique, but I mean overall the beer to liquor preference, is that completely reversed or inverted?
Yeah, Kate, did you see that those percentages that were on that article? It was kind of unbelievable. It was almost 70% was the preference.
Oh, that's true. I am looking at it right now.
Yeah.
So 60% liquor and then 16% hard seltzer and only 13% beer. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then wine.
And wine is 9%.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what I don't.
Freddie.
I got a story for that one.
Yeah, what I don't know, when I was back in college in 1962, what I would love to see in that article is more of an in-depth, an over time percentage, because if I think to my time in college in a year that I will not mention.
You already did, 1962.
1962. Back in 62.
Who'd you go to school with? You go to school with it? You go to college with anyone or think of anyone?
Kennedy's.
Back in 62 when I was hanging out with Harry from Beer Business Daily and Dominic, the CEO of Stone.
Well played.
The hardest thing, if looking back on it, it was all booze. I mean, if I look at everything we drank, I mean, beer was the afterthought. It was all booze. And this is going back, obviously, a couple of years. I don't think that these numbers are all too dissimilar from what they were years ago. And I've got no facts to go on, but my own liver. But I do believe it's the same, you know?
We scoff
I also
at facts.
think back to like, your choices are in college for me, at least, were based on the fact that I had no spending money. So, I mean, craft beer is pretty expensive. As a college student, I don't think I would have been buying $20 4-packs. In fact, I know I wasn't. So to me, it's not super surprising that their favorite alcoholic drink would be liquor.
No, I think the second being hard seltzer was the more interesting thing to me. Because that obviously wasn't like that in 1962.
No, but I disagree.
Yeah, I agree.
But I don't, because I'm old, and I remember the fact that we drank the hell out of stuff like Bartles and James and all those type of Zima. I think that's exactly right. So it's how you categorize this stuff, because those drinks were around back in ancient times, and they were very prevalent. I mean, the advent of seltzer is just filling a void that was there before with a different named product. Those products were there in great numbers. I mean, I look back at it at those times, and they really were. I mean, it was just called something else.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why I was just saying I think it's interesting, but I also I didn't see something comparative even in the last 15. I think something comparing it to like 2010 would be really interesting to me, just to see where that hard seltzer category pulled from. Was it from liquor or was it from beer? And then within beer, I'm sure the craft beer section of that is like extremely low, just like within the wine section, I'm sure like natural wine and fun stuff and French wine is extremely low. And it's like, that's a big chunk of boxed wine right there. That's 10% yellowtail.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think that Bart Watson, the economist at the Brewers Association, would call this clickbait.
I think you're probably right. That was a legitimate one. That one was legit.
That was legit, yeah.
If ham-fisted.
I did cross him off the list, though.
That's true.
You've got 10 name drops as of this moment.
Yeah, but you're just saying that. You know what? That one, I take it back. That wasn't legit. You're just saying his name. You weren't referencing any interaction. You would have said, you know what? Bart Watson said the
All
same
right,
thing.
when I was talking to Bart Watson
Exactly.
yesterday on the phone
Yeah.
Right.
about a presentation that
There
we're
you
going to do
go.
at Chicago Craft Brewers
He
Conference.
mentioned this article
He
and said it
mentioned
was
this and
clickbait.
said, when you're talking to Kate, please make sure that you mention this.
Yeah.
And I told him that I talked to Patrick Livingston from IRI, and he
Very
told
good.
me that
Keep
you know
him
what, I should
coming.
probably reach out to Tommy Arthur and see what Lost Abbey's doing in these type of situations.
And what was
Wow.
the answer to that?
He told me flat out that I should reach out to Dave Macon from Firestone Walker.
So you know what it
course
sounds
he
like to
would,
me.
flat
You
out.
know what? The funny thing is, Don it started to be like scattershot, but I'm starting to see a picture coming together, and it's everybody just quickly tells you to please call somebody else to get off the phone with you.
The method.
Oh, it's Don. Just give him someone of notoriety to talk to get him off the phone. It's the only way you'll get him to shut up.
God, I just can't get
say a
out.
bigger name. Just say a bigger name. So now I'm seeing, Don Bichsel, this is your life. We were supposed to have a new crew coming in, but they're not here, so we'll just keep going. So I don't care. We got a whole 7 minutes. Well, how long do we have, Serge? 7 minutes. Sweet.
You know. Can I go back? Actually, I just wanted to ask Kate a
You're
question.
standing.
No, I totally do. And of course I'm standing. I'm stretching. I can't find any more names to pull out of somewhere. But
you can't
Kate, back to this idea of the low gravity beers and the way that it's going. I mean, do you think that it's kind of what's your thought about breweries that go down this path? I mean, especially the ones that are going against ethos. Do you think that this is foolhardy? Do you think that it's what they should
Too
do
hardy,
to try to
light-hardy?
Yeah, do you
No,
think
not
that
at
it's
all.
something they should do to learn? I mean, what do you think?
Okay, so we just looked at the college student thing of what's their favorite thing, and I'm saying that I do believe that people's favorite, especially at that age, has to do with what they can afford. And small craft breweries, as we know, the more ingredients, the more grain, the more expensive, the bigger the beer, the more alcohol. As a result of that, it's going to be more expensive. So I think that if craft breweries do manage to move into a lower calorie space, it's also a less expensive beer to make, and it could move into sort of that hard seltzer, also maybe more affordable arena. So in that way, I do think it could be here to stay.
So I have a question then. So one of the other frontiers that has not yet been kind of trailblazed is the value lager. The value doesn't need to be lager, but there's for Budweiser. There's also Natural Light and Busch and stuff like that. Are we going to start seeing people go with economic pale ales or economic craft beer? Are they going to go that low and be like, this is our value brand?
The answer
I know
is
you love super premium, Kate, but no, can we?
Kate, let me jump in here for just 2 seconds and I'll shut up. But I do think that's going to happen. But I do think it's going to happen more out of desperation than anything else. I don't see anybody making any money on it. You look at the folks over at Founders that just finally rose price
Which
across the
folks?
country.
Can you name a name at Founders?
So let's see, Dave and Michael
helping you here.
and,
Yeah.
and
Anyway,
some others.
you talked to Dave and Michael Founders, yeah.
But they just finally rose price on this product, and that's not a big story, but it is interesting because of the fact that I don't think any of these brewers can afford to go that low. But it's going to be very interesting because I think when they do, I think it's going to be more of an act of desperation because they're not going to be making any profit off of it.
Yeah, I think it really just comes down to the size of the brewery, whether we start to see these larger breweries like Sierra Nevada, like Dogfish Head, if they're competing too much with smaller craft breweries who have more mobility. And so then they need to reach out into other categories, which, yes, desperation. And as long as I think they're making a product that's still delicious and still good, like the ones that I tried tonight for the most part. I did have some favorites. Some of these were pretty good. A couple couple were a little gnarly.
Yeah, what were the good ones?
The UFO one was pretty good. The UFO Light Force was good. The Dogfish Head one was pretty good, but it has it's like a monk fruit extract, which is I think just sort of like an estery fruit that makes it seem a little bit more sweet than it is necessarily.
If you have monk fruit on there, you'll sell
You
more.
win.
Yeah.
Kate, to go back to what we were saying though about as far as desperation, do you think the Sierra Nevada thing?
Keep in mind, Kate, you have 2 minutes.
Do you think that the Sierra Nevada?
That's a lot of time.
Do you think the Sierra Nevada play on the barrel aged beers is an act of desperation? And what do you think if Sierra Nevada suddenly goes down and comes out with a $6.99 6-pack? I mean, does it count as innovation or desperation?
I mean, I don't think that it's necessarily. I don't know. I mean, I think you need innovation to avoid desperation.
Great answer.
So I think that they're potentially changing some of their approach. The fact that this is in cans instead of bottles, I think, says something. The fact that it's priced the way that it is, I think, says something. They're definitely trying to reach out to new demographics, and I don't think there's anything necessarily desperate about that because they're still doing it in a way that still represents their company.
That's awesome.
And I think
they're the
if
first,
they,
too. They're the first to do it, too.
Yeah, and I totally agree.
I got
Kate.
2 minutes, guys. I can keep going. I'm just kidding.
But like if you're following
Yeah,
or
Kate, you
something,
rock.
it
You're right.
seems.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
I think so.
desperation more
They're
often,
leading.
I think, comes from when you're following.
Yeah, they're leaders.
But they're the first
they're
to do
leaders.
this.
Yep.
Guys, we are out of time. But before we go, I want to thank all my guests and producer Serge for killing it once again.
Serge,
with the
you killed
fades.
it. Serge, way
All right.
to go.
How do you do it?
Is there anything that you guys would like to say in closing? You want to start, Freddie? Anything you want to say? Or do you...
I really appreciate you having me around to blab, Chris. I appreciate it. It's
Awesome.
very special.
Well,
Thanks.
I hope that the time you took will be noted by the other two guests. Freddie took his time to thank me. So, Donn, anything you would like to do?
I would like to thank Chris because without him, I would be nothing in this industry.
I'd just be a guy who spoke to Vinny from Russian River earlier today.
No, I'll go back to what we were talking about earlier tonight. You know what I mean? And in all seriousness, you know what I mean? Taxes and the effect on, or tariffs and the overall effect on our industry. I mean, I would just say that if you do listen to this tonight, I think that it's worth the time to pick up a pen or hop online or make a phone call and express your feelings on tariffs. I don't believe that it's the right thing to do for the alcohol and spirits industry, and I think it affects a lot of our brethren that work in this industry in sales, marketing, and distribution, and I don't think that it's appropriate.
All right. You got like 2 seconds, Kate. Anything?
I'm just also echoing what Freddie's on the show to talk about. I think it's important for us to
The thanks part of what he was
small
saying.
businesses. I think it's important for us all to support small businesses, and that means supporting the products that they carry. So we should all do that.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. We got to go. See you next week.
The Bichsel generation, the Bichsel generation, reared on a diet of prejudice and misinformation. The Bichsel generation, the Bichsel generation. Open your eyes, open your imagination. They send in the special police to deliver us from liberty and keep us from peace. The more the words sit ill upon their tongues when they tell us justice is being done, that freedom lives in the barrel